What's up, everybody? Blake the Scholar of Magic, and I have an awesome deck tech for you today for the EDH format. This is Balthier and Fran. These are in red and green, or what we'd say Gruul colors, that color pie or color combination. It's a 3-cost total, 1 generic mana, 1 mountain, 1 forest, legendary creature, human rabbit. So these are characters from Final Fantasy XII. They're pretty beloved. Fran is kind of like that nature-esque, kind of like, connected with the wood. Balthier is kind of just like, that Chad kind of guy that, has sick vehicles and ships. And these two together are just fantastic. And I think they're pretty good flavor for vehicles. And what vehicles are in Magic the Gathering is they're simply artifacts. They're not creatures yet. However, Balthier and Fran, if you notice, Balthier and Fran have 4 power. And most vehicles in Magic the Gathering can be animated for basically tapping down a 4-power creature, such as Balthier and Fran, and then that would meet the requisite for them to become a creature where they could attack for the turn or block. And this is a very interesting character in many reasons. It's going to give a +1/+1 to all your vehicles, which is really nice. Your vehicles will also be able to block flyers because they'll have reach. And they won't be required to tap when they attack. And that means that for the next clause, when this particular card, when Balthier is crewed for the turn for your attack, when it is crewed by that vehicle and that vehicle attacks, you may pay an additional 1 generic, 1 red, 1 green. If you do, after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. What's really nice about this is that your other normal creatures won't be able to attack over again, unless they had a way to untap themselves. But your vehicles, they don't have to tap to attack. So that additional combat phase is awesome because they'll be attacking in, they won't be tapped. That additional attacking phase will happen over again. And because they weren't tapped, they will simply get in for damage once more. So it's kind of like a double damage vehicles. And in this manner, this particular card is extremely powerful. Double damage for your vehicles, which are already strong on face value. They usually have inflated stats because they have to have a requisite of being tapped to come into the battlefield. That additional combat is going to be massive, and you're going to close out games much faster because you have that additional combat available. So what kind of like fun things can we do with this card, and what are the kind of the new cards from Final Fantasy? So here's a really sweet vehicle. This one's called the Regalia, and it has a really low crew cost. We can see that. It has haste, which is nice. Whenever the Regalia attacks, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. You can see how extra combats are really good, and they kind of fit in perfectly with Balthier and Fran because in each instance of this attacking and not dying, you're going to get that land to just pop right onto your battlefield. And that's any land. You just have to reveal cards from your library until you hit a land, so that's fantastic. Additionally, a new card from Final Fantasy, which I'm actually just in love with, is Xenarcan, the Ancient Metropolis. And what's really nice, you could just simply play this as like a tap land in early sequencing, like in your opening hand if you needed to. But say, for instance, you just draw it later. Then you're going to have access to most likely a 7/7 token, because it's going to, for that sorcery adventure, you're going to be able just to cast that and have a really nice creature, and then you can play the adventure side, which is just a tap land. And I actually bought 37 of these because I got a really good deal, and I just believe in this card. I feel like it's kind of, people are still feeling the meta out, and I think I really got onto a one on, before anybody else. I think Xenarcan is going to be that kind of land that people are going to be like, that's kind of a staple-y green land. And I think it's just going to kind of fit into most decks in general. So just love to see it. Now, in terms of vehicles, we're going to get right into all the sweet vehicles. And I put them in order for you to kind of get a vibe. We definitely want to play an abundance of vehicles. I feel like a Consulate Dreadnought is just a nice choice. It's just a 1-drop. You can play it early on curve. It has a higher crew cost. of 6. So you might have to tap multiple creatures to get this down, but it is a 7/11. So just kind of a beastie card right there. And if we can get double combats with that, that's going to be very hard to interact with. Smuggler's Copter is just that one that's just looting cards. And basically what looting means is that you're going to be drawing and discarding with this particular card as it attacks. And again, extra combats, look for that for these vehicles because they will benefit from additional combat steps. So this one just having like double damage in the air. Yeah, most vehicles are really evasive too, like they fly or they have menace or have something kind of built into them, which makes them even nastier. So the fact that a lot of these vehicles have flying just makes them that much more vicious with Balthier and Fran, and also very low mana cost. Mech Titan Core, this is kind of what you have to see when you look at Mech Titan Core is the Mech Titan. And basically this is the outcome of like all our sweet vehicles that we bring to the battlefield and other artifact creatures. If we have, for instance, the Mech Titan Core and 4 other artifacts, we can meld them into what's called the Mech Titan. And Mech Titan is all colors, flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink, haste. It's a 10/10 flyer. Just a really nasty thing overall. And you can see extra combats with this would just be like GG for at least one of our opponents. They'd probably be done and toasted. So we just love to kind of see that. So yeah, it's just kind of like basically rewarding you for playing a bunch of vehicles. And of course, just melding them together. You create this really nasty creature. And it's just lovely. It's very vanilla, like meaning it's just not the best card just by itself. It's really that 5 mana, that 5 generic mana, and then melding this with 4 other artifacts, which really kind of bring you into that Power Ranger zone and making that Mech Titan Core. And now what's interesting about this, if that Mech Titan does get removed, all those vehicles and artifact creatures that you had melded with, they pop right back onto the battlefield. So if they had like good enter the battlefield triggers, like a Surge Hacker mech or a Sovereign, Sky Sovereign that damage things on your opponent's boards, those are fantastic to just pop back up. So a really nasty thing. Okay, Mobile Homestead is a really awesome kind of additionally like just that payoff vehicle where it just wants us to attack. And if, like we said, if we have multiple attacks, then we have basically more chances. Like for instance, we can get into a nice run with this card. As we're attacking with Balthier and Fran and getting that additional combat steps, because if we reveal a land, that's great. We put it on the battlefield. We attack again, we have a chance to reveal another land. And so each time it attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card you may put on the battlefield tab, that's some good ramp right there already. Just a good chance, just good RNG. Unlicensed Hearse, just get into our opponent's graveyards and kind of have that nice little resiliency for like maybe other vehicle decks like Greasefang, for instance. And that also brings up the topic of like Greasefang. Like, how does this compare with Greasefang? Well, obviously Greasefang is going to have those more explosive turns, right? You can have like a Rolling Hamsphere on turn 3, basically. Or you could have like, your Parhelion on turn 3. Balthier and Fran, though, like the extra combats, like you could get under a Greasefang like with an Unlicensed Hearse or Nautiloid Ship. It's basically, that's kind of the mirror match. And if you can draw into those, you'll be fine against Greasefang. So, and we can still in terms of matching up, it's really going to come down to deck building. I feel this deck is going to be, kind of fantastic for you. Oddly enough, I'm actually giving this same deck that I'm showing you today. I'm just giving it away at 500 subscribers. And that might take a moment, but it's going to happen probably within the next couple months. So just be aware that if you comment on this video, you'll be eligible for this deck. I think it has a value of about $180 or so. There's some cosmetics in here that I will be switching out, just FYI, but it would just probably be the Elvish Mystic, to be honest, because that's like an old foil, and it kind of would inflate the value. But other than that, everything you see in this deck is what you're going to get. And I think it's just a really good opportunity for casual players, just kind of like really get into this. Newer players, even more advanced players, I think you'll love this deck and kind of love building it up. Really what came down to this deck being cheaper was that I stripped down the mana base or the lands. And I really feel like I'll probably try to do that moving forward because Basically, including like fetch lands and shock lands and a lot of surveil lands, can really make your price tag kind of skyrocket and go from, say, for instance, like a low $200 deck in that range to like, a $450, $500 deck. So that's really what it comes down to. And I feel like I didn't really hold back in card choices. I stripped down the lands, but I juiced up the card choices, and there's really no power level loss. So I feel like you're just going to love this deck and just love how powerful it is for sure. Rocketeer Boost Buggy. Whenever this vehicle attacks, create a treasure token. Exhaust. 3 generic. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature, put a 1/1 counter on it. When you see that verbiage, when this becomes an artifact creature, that means you won't have to crew it any longer, simply sit out amongst the creatures on the board. So that's something that you can do with this. I like this one. It just creates a treasure each time it attacks. That's fantastic, really. Love to see it. Reckoner Bankbuster, this is like that OG awesome vehicle that's strong on itself, has that 4/4 stats, really kind of like stuck around against mono red and standard for a while. Kind of was like your, you'd be playing like in Rakdos, for instance. You'd have your Kiki Jiki stuff going on. You get into your Meat Hook Massacres, and then you just be drawing your cards with Bankbuster and kind of get busy. And it did get banned along with Fable, but it's just fantastic. I think Meat Hook might have gotten banned too. But just some really nasty play styles there. And this thing just simply will draw cards for 2 generic and a tap. That's fine. On the third instance of this, it will actually create a treasure and a 1/1 colorless pilot, so you get some board presence too. And that pilot will actually help crew the Reckoner Bankbuster, because that pilot crews creatures 2 plus its original power. So that's really nice. Lots of card advantage there. And it can get busy on attacks, so that's cool. Raiders Carve, this is kind of like Mobile Homestead. Whenever Raiders Carve attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tap. Again, the redundancy of the attacks, they kind of just can string off in one another. And you can go land, and then you're just living your best life with the extra combats. Just the chance to get a land off the top is just nice in itself. Here's the Miter's Servant of Luco. This is a nasty 6/6 for 3 generic. It has a crew 4, so we see that Balthier and Fran kind of meet that requisite, that 4 power, which is really nice. So Balthier and Fran is just situated in a really good spot in the 3 drop. It's very Greasefang aligned, I'd say. It's like playing Greasefang, but for Gruul. So this one's really cool, right? Mighty Servant of Luco, trample, war, discard a card. Whenever Mighty Servant of Luco becomes crewed for the first time each turn, if it was crewed exactly by 2 creatures, it gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw 2 cards until end of turn. Nice. So meet that criteria, crew this with exactly 2 creatures, and we will have creatures in this deck, including Balthier and Fran, and then slap in and draw 2 cards. It's going to probably get in because it has trample, and if we get those additional combats, that's another 2 cards in our bucket. That's a fantastic little vehicle there, for 3. Very low cost, very, very easy stuff to get into. Here's the Cultivator's Caravan. What a fantastic 3-drop. A little bit of ramp there for you guys. A little bit of a muscle there with a crew 3/5/5. You'd love to see it. Lumbering World Wagon is probably one of our stronger vehicles from Aether Drift. And this thing actually is going to act like kind of like a cultivate. It's going to enter the battlefield. You're going to fetch up a basic, put it right on the battlefield. Then each time it attacks, you're going to put another basic on the battlefield. So the redundancy of the attacks, this is like a sheer upgrade from the Raiders Carve. You can see the card quality is so much better. So and then its power is going to be based on the number of lands you have on the battlefield. So it can get really out of hand real quick. Thundering Velocipede, imagine this going into like a Weatherlight, for instance. And then all of a sudden you're going to have like a 6/7 flyer, all of a sudden, or a 7/8 flyer, something redonkulous like that. And it's just going to make all your 4-drop vehicles that much stronger. Even your other vehicles and creatures will come on with a little bit of buff. Just 3 mana, 5/5 trampler, love to see it. Nautiloid Ship is that really nasty flyer. You can see these vehicles quality are so good, and that's why people love Greasefang so much, is because they're so consistent and they're just so strong. This will actually empty out an opponent's graveyard, And each time it attacks, if there was a creature amongst those cards that it exiled the graveyard with, you can actually pop that creature right on the battlefield each time it attacks. Your choice. Fantastic. Midnight Crusader Shuttle. This is probably going to be one of the fan favorites for Balthier and Fran, just because it lets you to steal your opponent's creatures, or they'll have to sacrifice a creature on the board each time it attacks. You get to choose a targeting player to make that midnight entity choice. So they have a villainous choice at that point where that player will sacrifice a creature, or you gain control of a creature of your choice that player controls until end of turn. If you gain control of the creature that way, tap it, it's attacking that player. Crazy card. Surge Hacker Mech. This is just going to love you for us being responsible and not just playing like 6 and 7 drop vehicles. And so that we play a variety of really strong vehicles from the 1 to the 4 spot. And this is going to see the amount of vehicles we have on the battlefield, and it's going to hit an opponent's planeswalker or a creature, double the damage for each vehicle you control, including itself when it enters. So that's usually going to take out a nice target. Eska's Chariot, just to make some really nice tokens. This is actually one of the first green vehicles that was ever printed, going back to Kaldheim. Isn't that fantastic? So this is obviously kind of a newer mechanic, I would say, like to be printing vehicles in green and red. So isn't that cool that we can like have a Gruul commander, and they're starting to be, support for this system and these cards. So imagine just having an Eska's Chariot. Imagine like having like a Xenarkhan token on the battlefield, and all of a sudden like you're making really strong tokens because you're simply attacking so many times, like redundantly. And this will actually create tokens upon entering the battlefield, 2/2 cats, and then each time it attacks, it will copy a token. Here's Weatherlight. Weatherlight is that fantastic vehicle that will slap in over the air. 4 or 5 stats, and then you get to look 5 deep to find a historic card amongst those and put it right into your hand. What a fantastic card. You're going to just love Weatherlight. It will find artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. So nice little tutoring action there, like kind of a mini tutor. Head Shredder. This one's really interesting for us. It will definitely be like a Wombo Bombo combo with our Mesmeric Orbs of the world, because each time we mill a card from our library into our graveyard, or put a card from our right from our library to our graveyard, if it's a land, it will go right to the battlefield. And each time it attacks, we'll mill 2 cards, and we love to build a graveyard anyways. And with like additional attack triggers, we just get to do it all over again, so we get an additional chance. So Head Shredder just becomes that much more strong. Also, additionally, if an opponent starts to mill you with a Head Shredder on the battlefield, you will also get those lands as well. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put them on the battlefield tap. Really nice card. Crew 1, very low crew cost. Night Paladin, also just another very low crew cost. You see these are very strong. 6/6 Trampler here, 5 generic. When Night Paladin enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to each opponent. Sky Sovereign Council Flagship. This is the one that's going to have that really nice battle cry type of effect where it's entering, it's going to like take out like a little creature, for instance, or do damage to a planeswalker. And then when it attacks, it will actually do 3 damage again. So those additional attacks are going to stack up once again with Balthier Fran. And this thing is just 6 damage to the face because it's a big flyer. It's really crazy. Same thing with Cybership. This is a nasty 8/8 flyer. Each time this thing swings in, it's going to actually create 2 Cyberman artifact creatures, and it's really good for the Mech Titan core. Mech Titan core loves to see like a Cybership because it's just going to create those artifacts that will meet the requisite to creating the Mech Titan. So Cybership and Necro Monolith are really good to kind of get that party started. Here's the Thunderhawk Gunship, and whenever this thing attacks, it's going to have all our stuff flying. So all our vehicles will have vigilance and flying. And upon entering the battlefield, also create 2 white Astartes warrior creature tokens with vigilance. Amazing stuff. Look at this. This is like what Balthier and Fran love. Balthier just living the best life in this battle cruiser. Or you could be riding in a rolling hamsphere. Sure, why not? Yeah, let's just get into this crazy thing. And this thing is going to be, of course, really nasty in any sense. And people believe this is the strongest vehicle that's been printed thus far. And actually, maybe perhaps stronger than the Parhelion. I'd have to fancy Reaver Titan to an extent, too. It's definitely in the conversation. But the rolling hamsphere, the fact that it kind of can scale up make tokens that can crew your other vehicles. And additionally, having additional attacks with this is going to be epic because it's going to get stronger for each hamster you have on the battlefield, and it's going to start doing damage, more and more damage to any target. It can even go to opponent's face, where actually there's a number of hamsters you control. So, have a couple extra combats with a rolling hamster, and it's going to be a problem. I do have the Thundersteel Colossus in this particular iteration. I think it's fine too. I have to look at my list to see where it landed. It might not be in the list, but I think it's fine regardless. Any kind of big beater like this, like a Cyber Ship, a Thundersteel Colossus, they're all fine choices, I think. This one is a little bit more vanilla, but there's not much of a crew cost here. It does have that trample and haste, so it's a nice choice, I think, overall. But it might not make the final list. So, but yeah, I do enjoy the Thundersteel Colossus. Here's the Necron Monolith. Definitely makes it into the deck. Love that it can build our graveyard upon attacking. It can get back these 2/2 Necron Warrior artifact creature tokens if we do mill a creature. So that's really nice. And it has flying and indestructible. What a cool card. Here's the Reaver Titan. And this is probably the most nasty one. And one I've experienced and used and just absolutely demolished an opponent with on more than one occasion. What really is nasty about this is you have to imagine that when we're in these colors, we might not be as efficient as Greasefang, but we will have the ability to bring these out before we need to pay 7. There'll definitely be ways for us to resurrect these type of cards sooner than later. And if we have an opponent that doesn't have, for instance, a 3-drop that can profitably block with this, because this has protection from mana value 3 or less, so actually they'd have to have a 4 mana card to interact with it, 4 mana creature. This thing is just getting in for 10 damage each time it attacks, which is a lot. And then it's going to do 5 damage to each of your opponents on each instance of attacking. Co-op that with a Balthier and Fran in an early game sequence, and you're going to be ending games sooner than later. It's just going to deal a lot of pain damage to your opponents. Overall, if you kind of add up all this damage at once in extra combats, you're going to be doing about 50 hit points of damage with extra combat. So that's really cool stuff. So we just love to see it. Here's our girl. She got her throne kind of taken away, but she's still in the 99. And she's great with the vigilant creatures and the fact that when you're like crewing them, you can get into that attack. And then she can actually help pay for that crew cost by tapping them down on the swing back, because you can kind of do those type of things with her. You can definitely start tapping other vehicles, for instance, if you need to, and still have some other vehicles swing in, because she will tap your vehicles for mana. So fantastic. Let's check on Balthier. I want to see if is it? Okay, so it is that first combat when it attacks. So yeah, Maria would actually not do that, but she is just kind of interesting. She can just tap your artifacts for mana, which is fantastic, and that's really good enough. She can also tap them down to look for some other cards. She's like a secret commander for sure. Really good for like the Mech Titan core, for instance. Like you have your 4 or 5 artifact vehicles on the battlefield, and then you simply just tap them down. They can pay for that 5 cost and then meld themselves, so that's really nice. Here's Bello. And Bello is like that raccoon. Kind of looks like from the Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of, huh? But any creature or any vehicle that we have, for instance, or non-equipment artifact will actually become a 4/4 elemental creature in addition to its other types. And that's at all times. And they'll have indestructible and haste. And whenever this creature deals combat damage, player draw a card. We sorely need card advantage for this colors, so this is a perfect card. It will make some of our vehicles that are 4 mana value or greater a little less strong, but with counters and stuff, like we can add to their power. And we will get cards, so it's kind of a nice trade-off. Okay, so just like some nice simple ramp. So now we're coming into the creatures. And these are just kind of the nice little creatures we have. Birds of Paradise will all add mana. They're fantastic. They can get into a faster Balthier and Fran or faster things in general. So we just love to see these nice little creatures here. Easily castable for 1 green. They'll simply accelerate you with mana. Dragon Rage Channeler, as we play those artifact vehicles, we'll be able to surveil and basically have the option to keep that card on top or put it into our graveyard. Fantastic. Volatile Wanderglyph, whenever this gets tapped. These are also cards you have to pay attention to, like whenever this is tapped. So vehicles, that's what it does, right? When you crew a creature, we tap it down to use it for this crew cost. So for instance, with that Consulate Dreadnought, if we had a Balthier and Fran and a Volatile Wanderglyph, we'll simply tap both of them down, and now that will be a creature. And we'll also, because this is tapped, we'll be able to discard a card and then draw a card. Scrapwork Mutt, draw and discard, fantastic little artifact, and we can get value from it from the graveyard. Evora, the Insatiable Heir, each time we discard a card, this thing will get stronger. Each time it hits in, we will also make a blood token, which will actually help us continue to move through our deck and find the things we need. Inti, each time we discard a card, we'll be able to exile the top card of our library and play it that turn. Also, all of our creatures that have 1/1, I believe they have trample whenever we do attack. Whenever you attack, you may discard a card. When you do, put a 1/1 counter on target attacking creature. It gains trample. Okay, so on one of our target attacking creatures, that's fantastic. That trample is big. House Cartographer, I have to thank DG Hermit for making a deck that kind of showcased this card in his Balthier and Fran deck, and I'll also link him into the description so you can check out his gameplay video for Balthier and Fran so you can kind of get a vibe of how strong it is. But this card was just popping off. Basically, each time this thing is tapped at the beginning of our second main phase, so after our first combat, then we will actually just fetch a land into our library and put it right in a basic land, I believe. Oh, it's just a land card in general. So we reveal cards on the top of our library, and to reveal a land card, put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Fantastic. Wow. Great for vehicles. Kind of get the Kona vibes from that. FOMO, fear of missing out. A little bit of a rules little journey here to kind of get you guys kind of jazzed for this deck. Fear of missing out when we do reach that delirium of having four types of cards in our graveyard, which we will, because we'll be putting lots of cards in there. Whenever fear of missing out attacks, you get to simply untap a creature, and then there's an extra combat phase. And our vehicles don't care. Like usually this would be like, okay, you're only like untapping one, all your other creatures are tapped already, so you get one more creature and one more combat. But all of our vehicles will have vigilance, so it's just a redundant combat step. So instead of just getting, if you have a fear of missing out and you also pay into Balthier and Fran, you get 2 extra combat steps, and that's got to be GG, right? For at least one of your opponents, they're going to be dead. Very cool. Like if you think about Commander and you think about threat assessment, this is kind of like where you're going to want to be. Like if you have a threatening, opponent that you need to isolate, this is kind of probably that sequence that you're going to actually be game winning for you, because you are going to have that first combat step. Then you're going to meet the requisite for an additional combat step with Balthier and for fear of missing out. And then all of a sudden you're going to be able to do 40 plus damage on a turn cycle and take an opponent out. And that's really important for Commander. Fanatic of Ronas. This is just an amazing mana dork, and it will be triggered by Balthier and Fran. And you can see we didn't really hold back on our card choices. We're just kind of fitting in what we can do, picking the best cards, and really just stripping down our mana base so we can keep it under $200. And once again, I am giving this deck away as you see it. Just all you have to do is comment, and we just have to meet the requisite of 500 subscribers. I think we could do it probably by the end of the summer if you guys just hit that button and make a comment. And I'm going to send you this thing, and you get to play it. It's perfect. You get to have another Magic deck, probably another one that you don't even need. But it is what it is. And it's value, right? It's value. So Fanatic of Ronas, 4-power creature. We're going to make 4 mana. That's crazy. Magda, when this is tapped, will create a treasure. That's just fantastic. Then if we have 5 or more treasures, we can actually sack them all to find like a special artifact in our deck. And I think actually the substitute I made last night was like for the Thundersteel Colossus, I added a portal to Phyrexia. So there you go. I added even more value because I want to play this in the in-between time before giving it away. So here's a Seasoned Pyro, and these are just the cards that benefit from being tapped, right? Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure. That's fine. Easy stuff with vehicles, right? That's what they do, is they tap things down. Seasoned Pyro to get in a little gasoline. Maybe we're in low cards in our hand. This will give us a chance to get into some more cards, make some more bodies, for instance. Maybe put cards we want to put in the graveyard. Fantastic. Kona Beastie, Rescue Beastie. This is the card that loves to be tapped on our second main phase. If Beastie is tapped, you may put a permanent card from your hand on the battlefield. This is the most busted card probably in our entire deck, especially with the synergy of vehicles. We're simply going to tap this down, have like an amazing vehicle in our hand, and simply put it right on the battlefield. So that's the way we kind of skip our curve, like Greasefang would in some ways. Duretti, Rocketeer, Engineer. Once again, this just helps us get into that curve a little bit faster. Exchange a vehicle by sacrificing it on the battlefield when this enters or attacks, and then you get to put an artifact from your graveyard right onto the battlefield. Anyone from your graveyard on the battlefield. Here's Ox of Agonis. This is amazing. If we build our graveyard deck, I would highly recommend this creature for your graveyard decks. The cards, you're putting a ton of cards in the graveyard, because simply when you meet the requisite of 8 cards in your graveyard, you can pay two red and exile 8 other cards from your graveyard, and then you'll be discarding your hand. If you didn't have any cards, that's fine. If you may have one, that's fine, because then you're going to just draw 3 cards, and it escapes with 1/1 counter, so it's a little bit stronger. Really strong card. Really can kind of give you the edge against cards that are trying to decks that are trying to outvalue you. Disciple of Freyalise. This is that land that you can also just play for 3 life. It'll come in untapped as a forest, or simply as a 6-cost creature, 3/3. You can sacrifice another creature, say for instance like an 8/8 cyber ship, and then go ahead and draw 8 cards and gain 8 life for 6 mana. Sounds good to me. Here's these beautiful lands here. So we've come into the lands section, and this is kind of the final little plunge. Mech Hanger is amazing because if you don't have any creatures on the battlefield, you can simply pay 3 and tap this land, and a target vehicle will become an artifact creature until end of turn, so they can start swinging. That's an amazing land. It will add generic or colorless mana, and then it could also add 1 mana of any color to spend this to cast a pilot or a vehicle spell. Gaia Reach Sanitarium. This is add colorless or 2 and a tap. Each player draws a card, then discards a card. If we really need to get a card in the graveyard, that will help. Soken's-On to make tokens or act as a red land. Lair of the Hydra for a green source, or to become a man land. We can pump that in and have it become a menacing creature or a strong creature. Not with menace, just a very strong creature, based on the amount of lands we played into it. It will get 1/1 for each land we pumped into it. Restless Ridgeline, that just a really nice kind of just another dual land that we need in this kind of, stripped down mana base, but it's fine anyways. It's just a man land. And a dual, it produces red or green, enters tapped, and then for 4 mana, Restless Ridgeline becomes a 3/4 red and green dinosaur creature until end of turn. Whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature gets 2 until end of turn. Untap that creature. Fantastic. Shouldn't have too much of a problem with our, Balthier and Fran untapping our vehicles. But again, that 2/0 buff is really nice. We did leave it in a commercial district just to have that nice little ability to play this and surveil, and meaning we can keep that card on the top of our library or put it into our graveyard when this comes on the battlefield. And it's a duel. Cragcrown Pathway to play as a forest or a mountain, either one. You get 1 choice on that, and that's where it sticks. Rootbound Crag. This will become untapped unless you control a mountain or a forest. Add red or green to your mana pool. Rockfall Vale. This will come in untapped if you have 2 or more other lands. Fantastic. Carplucent Forest. This will add colorless or red or green. It will not be coming in untapped, so it's fantastic. It will do a damage to you each time you tap it for red or green. Thorn-Inspired Verge. Add red already, then add green if you control a mountain or forest. Game Trail. As Game Trail enters the battlefield, you may reveal a mountain or forest card from your hand. If you don't, Game Trail enters the battlefield tapped. Fantastic. Lots of basics in this when we kind of strip it down from the fetches. I think it's fine. This land enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Copperline Gorge. Copperline Gorge enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands, so that's a fast land. Command Tower, just to basically, just produce anything, be the best land in our deck, basically. Exotic Orchard, add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. And then this is add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So red or green in our instance. This one will actually produce mana only if your opponents have a land on the battlefield, so it wouldn't be your best turn 1 play, but it will produce mana of any sort that your opponents could produce with a land. So that's cool, Exotic Orchard. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 forests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 mountains. And that, guys, is the deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little sweet deck tech. Here's our little 1-minute deck tech, and we'll just make sure we put our homie Balthier and Fran on the top. So, Ruben, did you like what I did today? Oh, yeah. So, guys, this is Balthier and Fran. This is the new Gruul, the Gruul Vehicle Masters. Look at these guys. Beautiful deck. I think you'll just love all the choices in here. I think you're going to have fun with it at your casual commander night. It's just going to be one of those sweet decks. Your opponent's going to be like, you're hitting me in the head with battleships and vehicles and, and like this thing, whatever that is. What is it? Yeah, it's fun. It's this is a fun part of Magic that I do enjoy. I kind of think it's fun. It's, you know, obviously different from the Magic that we started when we were kids, but it's a fun fusion, and it's fun. You know, it is kind of a fun thing. It kind of mixes a lot of like pop culture at once, and kind of the game is always changing. Like, could you ever imagine like a Kona? Like, it's like such a better Elvish Piper. It's like kind of dumb, right? It's just the power creep is definitely real amongst these cards. But yeah, I just love this little fast little Gruul deck here. And again, I'm giving this away at 500 subs, so make sure you make a comment and you'll definitely be eligible. And just like the video, because that also helps. I appreciate you guys very much. Additionally, I wanted to kind of pick your brain here, guys. So I have these 3 commanders. I'm kind of leaning towards doing the deck tech for Tycho next. I'd have to pick up some more cards though, so I don't know if it's quite ready. So I want to do Tycho soon, but I think between these two, let's because I think I'll have the cards first. What one would you like to see first? Arwen the Mortal Queen or Tom, a retake on Tom? They have new cards from Final Fantasy for both, so it's really up to you. So let me know in the comments, do you want to see Arwen next or Tom? Whatever one we do next, we'll then do Tycho after that. So let me know, guys, and we'll definitely make that happen. I also think I'm going to like do a lot of my gameplay videos. I think I'm going to do those all through live form now. So that's how we'll kind of do it. All the arena gameplay, we'll do lives for that. Whether or not, like, you know, people come to see it or not, whether I'll be on for very long, that's another thing entirely. But I feel like I'll put those on the live. They're still on the channel. And then I can have just these as our long form videos, the deck techs. And I think we'll be doing that moving forward. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day. Goodbye.